Hey kids, what time is it?
Hey, it's Edson with GeekTime TV. So, talking about Dune Part 2, it's been, what, a month and a half, almost 2 months now since it's been out. It's doing really great. Still doing well in the theaters, even after almost 2 months. I believe it's hit 700 million worldwide, which is really great. It's well into profit for this movie. And as a result, Warner Brothers has agreed for Denis Villeneuve to do a third movie for Dune Part 3, which would I was going to say theoretically be based on Frank Herbert's second book, Dune Messiah. And I thought now that it's been a while, that I thought I'd do a deep dive into this movie. Now that it's been out for a while, and there's gonna be heavy spoilers into this, not just spoilers for the movie, but the book, because one of the things I'm gonna do is also do a lot of comparisons with the book. Like I said in my earlier video, after I saw the movie, it's visually spectacular. The productions is just top notch, which of course is why it's doing so well. And if you're not if you're not familiar at all with the book, I'm sure you're loving it. If I come across as being somewhat critical at times, and I know I will, it's because of the changes that this movie has from the book, deviations from the book. And I know that every adaptation is going to be changed from the original source material. I totally get that, but there was some changes in this movie that really did not need to be done, in my opinion. And I was kind of disappointed in those things as well. But like I said, it's the production value of this movie is fantastic visually. The sound, the movie experience, going to see it, especially on the big screen, was fantastic. My gripes are more for being very familiar with the book, and in my opinion, there were some significant changes that didn't need to be. So, okay, so once again, heavy spoilers about this. All right, so we open up by introducing two new characters: Princess Erlen, played by Florence Pugh, and the Emperor Shaddam, her father, played by Christopher Walken. They're at their home planet Kaitan, and I'm glad that Princess Erlen got some screen time on this. She's a character who's not very she's not a major character in the book, but she does play a significant part of it. When we see her in the movie, it looks like she's investigating this major incident that happened, where the Harkonnens decimated the Atreides, which is a big news for the Empire. Two great houses going at each other, but not just because of that, but it was at the site of Arrakis. They're arguably the most important planet because of the spice that comes out of it. And she's investigating into what happened there. Why did this happen? And she has this conversation with her father. She's not aware at this point that he was involved in it. So she's trying to figure out, how this happened, if there's any survivors and things like that, and what's going on now. Now, Princess Erlen, like I said, Princess Erlen does not have a major character in the first book, but I do like that with her specifically. She's like a historian. She writes a lot about the major incidences that happen in the Empire, and her particular thing is at the beginning of every chapter of the book, there's an excerpt from one of her books that she wrote on the history of Dune and what's going on with the Empire. So I'm glad that she's a character in this movie. I also like the fact that looks like they're playing the Dune version of chess. Looks like a lot more complicated than our chess, and kind of a foreshadowing that by the end of the movie, spoiler alert, Paul kind of outmaneuvers the Emperor in kind of their own game of chess. So two new characters here. Then we pick up with Paul and Jessica with a Fremen right after they had met up with them at the end of the first movie, where Paul kills Jameis because he was challenged by Jameis. He kind of was forced to kill him. And they're on their way to the Fremen local home there, the cavern called Feyd-Rautha. On the way, the Harkonnen patrol attacks. They fight back. You see some of the tactics that the Harkonnens have been using against the Fremen, and some that the Fremen have been using against the Harkonnens, giving you an idea that this is something that happens a lot. You see, for example, the Fremen setting up thumpers to call worms that might come in and attack the Harkonnens, but then you see the Harkonnens like shoot out knowing that this is a tactic, shoot out the thumpers to make sure it doesn't happen. So that was something. But the Fremen eventually do defeat the Harkonnens. And some of the technology, they kind of a cool technology. I like their portable device that extracts water from the dead bodies, giving you a sense that water conservation and extraction is a big thing. Where you're out in the desert, water is probably the most important thing for them. So extracting the water from the bodies, and then they kind of pile up the bodies, and they set up a thumpers to call the worms, because they know the worms are going to come after they leave and kind of eradicate all the evidence that anything happened here, which is what they want. They don't want anybody to know that they're even around here. You also so the one of the you had some great visuals with the battle and things like that, like I said, but one of the parts of this scene that didn't really fit well here was when Jessica vomits. And I know I know that's like people are used to seeing where she's pregnant with Paul's sister, and people are used to seeing someone who's pregnant do things that vomiting and having sickness and stuff like that. But this does not go well at all with the character of Jessica, because Jessica is a advanced Bene Gesserit. She has learned a lot of abilities that go way beyond what a normal human can do. One of those abilities from the Bene Gesserit training is the fact that she can control every function of her body, every part of her body specifically, and she would never be showing this kind of weakness of vomiting. She'd be able to completely control that, and that's kind of like something that people didn't do enough homework in showing her character. That's just something that would not happen. At the end of the scene, they move on, and Paul offers to carry Jameis's body, which I'm guessing is a replacement for. In the book, there's a very formal funeral rite for Jameis, really well done, and they skip over that part. It's not that big of a deal, I realize, but him showing that he's offering to carry the body is kind of like a replacement for that, and that's fine. So they go, well, before I was going to say they reach the cavern Feyd-Rautha, but before that we shift over to the Harkonnens. There's the Harkonnen control room. It's all dark and everything, and we see that Beast Raban is not at all pleased the way things going in terms of spice production, because he talks about how the Fremen are just being a pain to them, and he just arbitrarily kills some of his men for saying stupid things, and that's how that's how the Harkonnens are. They kill at will for no reason whatsoever, and you could see things are going very badly for them. Or for him specifically, how it's not the way he pictured it taking over after getting rid of the Atreides, taking over. He thought he would just have such a grip on the spice production, and it's not going very well with these Harkonnen raids. Definitely a foreshadowing of things to come. So then we go to where they reach Feyd-Rautha, the cavern where Fremen, Stilgar people live. The Fremen have a lot of these type of they call them sietches all over the planet, where a bunch of them live and everything. They get there, and you see this is something where I didn't really like. I know a lot of people like this, but I personally didn't really like it. You see Stilgar kind of acting like very fanatical, where he's kind of trying to convince a bunch of the Fremen that there's a lot of the qualities of the prophecy that someone's going to come and save them, and he's trying to convince them that it's Paul that is this person that's going to come, and it's even like kind of the way he talks about it, kind of it causes like a comedic moment and stuff like that. And I know the crowd, even when I was watching it in my viewing, they were kind of laughing, and it was funny, but it's not something that should be the character of Stilgar, who would be like this. Stilgar is nothing like that. He's not some kind of fanatic that's always looking for things about the prophecy. He's very open to it because it's something that the Fremen have been living for many years, hundreds of years. He's open to it. It's not like he rejects it, but he just is about. He just respects strength above all. Strength that can help his tribe, help the Fremen people. He's not about like just trying to find every little sign that there's a this savior that comes along or anything like that. Even though he's open to it, and it's just kind of, I think it kind of demeans his character to be like that. I get it. It provided some comedy in an otherwise very serious movie, but it shouldn't have been that character. That's not Stilgar. But also at this point, Stilgar talks. Well, I'm not sure if it was Stilgar that brought it, but it was brought up that the tribe's reverend mother is very old and is about to die, and they need someone to take over for her, because the tribe always has to have a reverend mother. It's someone who's like very wise and guides them in ways that, long-term ways. Not obviously Stilgar is the leader in terms of the fighting, but we're talking about like other bigger decisions about the Fremen. And Jessica is approached as someone who to take over for the Reverend Mother, because they need to have somebody to take over once the Reverend Mother dies. And it almost makes it look like, makes it seem, or it does, if I remember correctly. I know there's a lot of things, and forgive me, there's a lot of things I probably forgotten, but I think implying that if she doesn't do this, then what use is there for her, and maybe she's not going to be allowed to be with a Fremen anymore. So I guess she's got to try for it. And the process of becoming the Reverend Mother is that she has to successfully drink the water of life, the ironically named water of life, because it turns out that this is a very deadly poison to everyone. So why is she taking the water of life? A couple of things. As I talked about, Jessica is a very advanced Bene Gesserit, and like I said, they have a lot of special abilities. One of those abilities is the ability to, anything that they eat or drink, they can chemically change the formula or the constituents of that substance, thereby making a poison, harmless, or things like that, or change it in some other way. Now, is this something that's like 100% all the time? No, of course not. There's a really good chance here that she's going to die from this if she can't do this correctly. It's not like an exact science being able to do this, but at least she's at a point where she advanced enough to try this. And what the result of taking this water of life is that then she will gain these the special connection to the ancestral Bene Gesserit, other Reverend Mothers from the past, and access to their wisdom, and be able to use that wisdom to better guide the Fremen. And that's how she becomes a Reverend Mother. So she decides she's going to go with it for her and Paul's survival among the Fremen, to help the Fremen. And as she's taking this and struggling with it, the current Reverend Mother suddenly realizes that she didn't tell them this, because they would have probably prevented her from doing it, but she feels like she has to do it. So she didn't tell them that she is pregnant and the Reverend Mother realizes that she's pregnant, and all of a sudden she goes into a panic. It's like, why did you do this? Why didn't you tell us? Because it's it's not just forget, putting aside the danger to Jessica, and the danger to just killing the unborn child, but on top of that, what this process is going to do, if Jessica succeeds, is what this process is going to do to an unborn baby. Having it all exposed to all these memories, and it's going to be like psychologically overwhelming for a baby who hasn't even had time to process anything, and cause all sorts of maybe mental breaks and things like that. So who knows how she's going to be born like this, but it's too late. She's already taken it, and they're going to have to live with it. And at a point after she does take it, as she's struggling with this, by the way, you see Paul kind of wander outside of the cavern, and what I think is one of the most ridiculous scenes. So his mother's struggling with life and death, and he wanders outside, and you see this kind of a break in the Fremen that's not in the book, where the Southern Fremen are these kind of traditionalists who are always looking, always believe in totally in the prophecy that someone's going to come to save them, and always looking for the signs. Whereas you have the Northern Fremen who look like to be much younger, and they seem to be represented by Chani and her friend Shishakli, and they kind of just dismiss this whole spiritual thing. They don't believe in any of it, and you see this kind of break in the two sides of the Fremen, which does not exist at all in the book. All the Fremen kind of agree that there's a prophecy that's going on that could happen, but they each kind of have their own personal opinions about it. It's not like a definitive break between the North and the South. But anyways, Paul walks outside while this is going on with Jessica, and he sees that Chani and Shishakli seem to be joking about this whole thing as his mother is maybe dying, and his reaction is that he kind of turns into this awkward teenager at a high school cafeteria. He sees them laughing. He's like, "Hey, what are you guys laughing at? What, can I join you?" It's so stupid. How you wasted that scene is ridiculous. Paul is someone who grew up in a royal house, and I'm not talking about modern where they're all pampered and stuff and everything like that. I'm talking about he grew up with responsibility right from childhood. He was trained to fight as a child. He was trained in leadership. He's trained in the economics of running a government of a planet. He probably learned more responsibility at 10 years old than most of us do at 30 years old, and he would never turn into this weird, this, and start doing this teenagey thing. It's where he's awkward, and it's "Oh, can I join you?" Or especially when his mom is he's like, "Hey, what are you laughing at?" And especially when his mom is maybe dying in there, it doesn't make any sense. So turns out, obviously, probably pretty obvious to everyone, that is probably going to happen is Jessica does survive. Her unborn daughter does also survive, but it's but that's going to cause complications later on, but that's not to happen right now. And at this point, she even starts to communicate, having conversations with her unborn daughter. I believe Paul can get onto all those conversations at certain points in the movie, which kind of inadvertently Hollywood, by making this movie and doing it this way, because this wasn't how it was in the book, has actually kind of given a great reason why we should not be killing our unborn, because they're very it's you have an actual character in the womb having these conversations and expressing their valuable opinions and all that. So anyways, that's just my thing on that. I doubt that's the way the makers of this movie wanted to do it, but it does come out as that. The unborn are real live people. So Jessica survives. She's now the Reverend Mother. Also at this point, I forgot to mention that soon after this, Jessica, another just very huge departure from the book, which I don't understand, is that she's encouraging Paul to also take the water of life, which is incredibly just total opposite of Jessica in the book. She would never do that. She would completely discourage him from taking the water of life, because as dangerous it was for her, it's much for, and she in her mind, him taking the water of life would be just mean instant death, without even without a doubt. So she would never do that. For some reason in this movie she did. I'm kind of like at a loss why that was done. And he does later on do that. I will get to that scene much later, probably in a different video, because this is going to take too long to do this deep dive with just one video. But he does go ahead and do it on his own later on, but for other reasons, not just because Jessica's encouraging him to do. So then the Fremen, you see the Fremen going out on raids, and they're attacking the Harkonnens as they're trying to take the spice away, and they're successfully beating the Harkonnens, and having great success. They come back, they celebrate, they start looking at Paul, who he's participating in this and these raids against the Harkonnens. By the way, fantastic visuals on the battle scenes. When you see this, really great visuals, and really this movie, like I said, production wise is fantastic. You see these great sound, great visual, great editing, everything. The choreography of the fights, fantastic, really well, A+ done. I want to mention that. So they come back and they celebrate in the siege, how the success of them. And again, certain departures from the book that I completely don't understand. One of them, Paul, this wasn't one of them. Paul kind of like earns a secret Fremen name within the siege, and it's they name him Usul, but then he gets another Fremen name, the name of Muad'Dib, which is more kind of like his overall Fremen name when he comes in contact with other Fremen outside of this siege, which kind of makes sense, because if you're trying to do security where you're trying to figure out if someone's infiltrating them, you probably want to have the secret names. But so he gets these new names, but then the part that I'm talking about that makes no sense is that someone says, oh, maybe we should make him one of the Feyd-Rautha, and that's crazy. It's just I hate that people who watch this movie don't even get that, because they make it look like the Feyd-Rautha are like these elite Fremen fighters, which they are, by the way, but not in the way it comes across in this movie. No, Paul would never be one of the Feyd-Rautha. The only reason why the Feyd-Rautha, the elite fighters, came is because of him. When he started leading them, when he started teaching them teaching the Fremen how to become better fighters, teaching them better tactics against the Harkonnens, leading the raids in the book. I'm talking about all this. I'm talking about in the book. When he started getting becoming a leader in terms of being successful against the Harkonnens, he actually trained a small group of Fremen who became elite fighters, and they were named Feyd-Rautha because they became his own personal guard, and they would go everywhere he went to serve as his personal guard, and also on all the raids that he led and everything like that. So they only became the Feyd-Rautha only came to be because of Paul. So he wouldn't just be one of the Feyd-Rautha. That's kind of it's just like a peeve of mine that why you would do this departure, I don't know. But anyways, then they have this nice scene. We saw this in the trailer where Paul and Chani are out in the desert. It's a nice scene that sees them growing closer, and where he's explaining to her how his home planet of Caladan has oceans, which is these bodies of water where you actually be completely submerged in them. And she's kind of laughing. She thinks he's joking around. Well, he's kidding her, because she has no concept of this type of thing, having a large body of water, being living on a desert planet. And this is a really nice scene that kind of becomes another kind of horrible example of why you're departing from the book, in that he then asks her what is her secret Fremen name, and she answers Sahaya, which means desert spring. No, this is completely blatantly different from the book, and I don't see why you would want it. This is one of the examples I'm talking about why you'd want to do this. Why are you doing this? Sahaya in the book is after Paul and Jessica have become very close in their relationship. He actually comes up with that name for her. It's like his own personal name for her. It means desert spring, and it's almost like this thing where, in a world that's filled with danger at every turn, betrayal, and he's constantly got to be on guard. Being with her is kind of like being in a desert spring where he can finally relax and be calm and have a respite from her. That's what their relationship means so much to him, that he kind of like, it's a way to deal with all the violence of this world by just having this relationship with her. It's an equal relationship in the book. He's not superior to her, and she's not superior to him in the actual relationship. She acknowledges that he's a better fighter. As a matter of fact, he personally trains her to be a better fighter in the book. But in terms of the relationship, it's a very equal relationship. But it's not one where she's constantly like, arguing with him and kind of being disloyal, like in the way she gets portrayed in the movie. As a matter of fact, that's probably the biggest departure from the book, is that the character of Chani is completely different in this book, and it unfortunately it does affect a lot of what would happen in the next movie, Dune Messiah, because their relationship is not the way it is in this movie. So I fear for how that movie is going to go, because if it's already departure so much in this movie, how much more is it going to be in the next movie? I don't know. This is like one of my favorite scenes in the book. For as an example, I'm trying to convey this relationship with each other, is this thing where Fremen from all over Paul gains this reputation as a leader and a great fighter, and perhaps as the one who is to come to help them finally become free of the shackles of the Harkonnens. He gains this reputation as a possible leader of all the Fremen, and what happens is that Fremen from all over the planet, from all over Arrakis, come to challenge him, because that's what the Fremen do. That's their main thing, is that there's a challenge of the fight, the strength. So they come and challenge him because they're like, no, I'm not going to believe that this person is the one that's going to come to lead us, and I'm going to challenge him, and then I'm going to become leader. So every one of them falls. He's easily better than them. Of course, because he's had such advanced training from Duncan Idaho, Gurney Halleck, Thufir Hawat, plus all the Bene Gesserit training, his own father, plus all the Bene Gesserit training from his mother. So yeah, of course he is, and that's how he is in the book become valuable to him. That's how the Fremen accept him, because he has this value to give them. He makes them stronger by training them to become stronger. So he personally trains Chani and a lot of the Fremen to become so much of a better fighters, and which you don't see anything of this at all in the movie. And he at some point these challengers come, and of course he defeats them, and he actually becomes kind of tired of this. He's like at one point he's like, how many people must I kill in order to just have them just stop coming? So at one point a challenger comes, and before Paul can even like be aware of the situation, China goes out to meet this person, this challenger, and she personally fights and kills him. And then Paul finds out, and he's upset with her. He's like, why did you do this? He came to challenge me, not you. And she, Book Chani, practical as ever, points out to him, well, when word gets out that Muad'Dib's woman, and she's referring to herself, Muad'Dib's woman can beat most people out there, then the challengers won't be as many coming for you. And she was absolutely right, because of this reputation that she's such a good fighter because of him. You start getting less and less of these challengers, and it's such a poignant moment, showing her loyalty to him, showing how close they are, and like, even though it was something that he wouldn't want her to do, it still shows just how close they are, how loyal she is to him, which you don't see in this movie at all, unfortunately. Then let's see, we finally get to see, well into the movie, we get to see the first scene with the I can't think of the Baron Harkonnen. This is the first time we see the Baron. I mean, we see him in the first movie, but this in Dune Part 2. This is the first time we see him, and he's very upset with Beast Raban, with how things are. Obviously, the Fremen are being very successful against the Harkonnens in their raids, and I remember early on when people were talking about this movie, and one of the complaints I heard from a YouTube, I'm trying to remember who it was. It might have been either Critical Drinker or Gary at Neurotic. A very popular YouTuber was saying, they were very confused. It's like, why are the Harkonnens even considered, dangerous or real enemies of the Fremen? It seems like they're being beaten at every turn. It's like they don't even seem to put up a fight or anything like that. And he has a good point. This movie doesn't really convey how harsh it was when the Fremen were when the Fremen were getting constantly being harassed by and killed by the Harkonnens. The thing of it is, what this movie doesn't do is, in the book, there's a maybe 2.5, 2+ year time gap that you go forward, in which you get the knowledge that you get that Paul and Jessica actually had spent 2 years, even more than 2 years, with the Fremen, kind of learning from them on how to live in the desert. But even more, just as important, which you don't get in this movie, is that Paul is teaching them better the tactics on how to beat the Harkonnens. He teaches them better fighting techniques, and he gains this reputation of over a course of 2+ years, gains this reputation of being a great leader, and that's how he kind of gets his reputation, which you don't get that at all in this movie. You also don't get that it takes this long period of time for the Fremen to have a lot more success against the Harkonnens, and it happens very gradual over 2+ years. Whereas in the movie, you think, all of a sudden the Fremen are just easily beating the Harkonnens. Why are they such big villains? Like, it's no big deal. And I can understand why people would think that from the movie, but you don't get that. You don't get the real story except from in the book, and that's kind of a shame. And one of the other things in that 2-year gap is that instead of having Aaliyah, Paul's sister, in the womb the whole time as a character, she's actually born, and she's a child and everything, but you don't get that at all. Obviously you don't get the 2+ year gap at all, so she's not even born here, and she's still a character, but a character in the womb. So next we have so this is probably one of my favorite scenes of this movie, because it was so done perfectly well. This is like as perfectly as imagined as I've ever thought of in reading, the book at least a dozen times or so. I think the way this scene was portrayed in the movie is even better than how I imagined it to be. Really well done, on how Paul proves that he can ride a worm on his own, and it's just fantastic. Like that sense of impending danger to him as the worm is coming. I was sitting there in the theater, and my chair was, my seat was shaking. I felt like immersed in it. I felt like I was there, also in danger of like falling and being overrun by the worm if I made a wrong move, like him. But it was just really visually incredible, and I really I just love. We only saw a little bit in the trailer, but the whole scene is just really spectacular. I just love this scene. Then we go to, at this point, we go to shift scenes to the planet Kaitan, back to the Emperor and Princess Erlen. And they're getting word now, they're getting news now that things are happening in Arrakis that's not really good for the, not just really good for the Harkonnens, but not really good for the Empire. Because if spice production is affected, then the whole Empire gets affected. That's like their most important commodity. And the Emperor is like getting this word that this new leader, Muad'Dib, is having leading the Fremen to much more success than previous, and he thinks about he's trying to figure out how to resolve the situation. He's like, well, maybe I should send some assassins to kill him, which is kind of a stupid thing to say. I think because as a and Princess Irulan, they show her showing her smarts, and where she goes, no, that's not a good idea. Because she points out to him that these type of like they know him like thinking of him as like a spiritual leader or like a prophet to the Fremen, someone who's like kind of like where they all kind of like are following him because of religious fervor. That's kind of like how they're thinking of, and she's like pointing this out that when you kill those type of leaders, they become that much more powerful in terms of being a martyr, and it turns the Fremen, it would turn the Fremen into much more frenzy, and it would turn this problem into much bigger problems. She suggests to him, she points out to him, and I admire the fact that he does take her seriously. It shows that she's kind of like someone who's very intelligent in terms of what's going on with the Empire. And she points out to him, just let things go the way they are. Where I know the Harkonnens are getting pummeled and spice productions, but let things play out the way it is a little bit longer. And then when things get really, really critical, then he can go in with his forces and kind of save the day and stabilize the situation and kind of become a hero to the Empire, because he went in there and cleaned up the mess that the Harkonnen started, which is kind of smart. After this, she has a private conversation with the Reverend Mother Mahayam, who we saw in part 1, where she went, she visited Jessica and Paul in the when they were still on Caladan. So they have a private conversation where Princess Irulan, like she's saying, she expresses to her that could this Muad'Dib be Paul? She's been like I said, she's been investigating this whole time what happened on Arrakis when Harkonnens went over and destroyed the Atreides, and she's kind of like some of the things that leads her to believe that this Muad'Dib, who's maybe Paul Atreides. And the Reverend Mother reprimands her, tells her she can't be talking about this because. And I believe that's when Princess Irulan kind of finds out that the Emperor, her own father, had been involved with the Atreides' demise. And the Reverend Mother tells her, look, you can't be letting this information out because if people find out that the Emperor was complicit in this, then the Empire may start to break apart, because if other great houses find out that the Emperor kind of secretly ganged up on the Atreides to destroy them with the Harkonnens, then they're going to think, well, is he going to turn his forces onto us next? And they may kind of get together with the other great houses and rebel against him if he's going to be like that, if they suspect him of doing this. So she's telling him, don't reveal this information. You gotta stop talking about it because we don't want word getting out that your father was involved. They also have this. I believe they have a conversation about. Part of their conversation was about Paul, and if he's really dead, wasn't this one of the people that the Bene Gesserit was trying to manipulate in their breeding program to be like their kind of like super being? And the Reverend and the Reverend Mother points out that even if he is dead, they have other candidates also besides him. And this is going to lead up to one of those candidates and then very next scene, but I'm going to kind of leave it there because this video has become very long. I apologize that it's so long because this is such a, and I know and by the way, yes, please, you more than welcome with the comments, and please let me know what I forgot. I know I forgot a lot of things about this movie already. I was just mostly trying to remember all the major ways in which it did differ from the book, unfortunately, which I hope doesn't cause bigger problems. But anyways, this is, I believe, at this point, is kind of like almost exactly halfway through the movie. So I'm going to stop it here at this video, and it's already become too long. It's I'm going to come back and do the rest of the movie. Again, I want to stress that if I come across as being too critical, I'm not. It's not a critical of the way the movie was produced. It had outstanding production value, and of course people are loving it. Like I said, my only criticism is in the way kind of that there were a lot of changes from the book, and I firmly believe that some of those changes did not have to happen. And if those changes didn't happen, I think this movie would have been even better. That's how I see it. So I'm gonna leave it here. I think, like I said, I think the biggest thing was in the character of Chani, unfortunately. I'm gonna leave it here for now. Before I keep going. I'll do another video for the second half of the movie. I hope everyone out there did go see it, did enjoy this movie. If you've never read the book and you don't plan on reading the book, I'm sure you're loving it. But for someone like me who's been kind of like reading the book on and off for like the last 40 years or so, some of those things are just a little disappointing. But I still enjoyed a lot of it. So okay, that's it for me for now. Please let me know in the comments. Gladly hear any comments that would disagree with what I'm saying. If you want to disagree, even disagree about what I'm saying about the comparison with the book, that's perfectly fine. This is just my opinion, and I just wanted to convey that. And I will try to come back very, very soon for the second half of the book. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks for watching GeekTime TV. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. If you subscribe, make sure to check the little bell icon anytime someone from our network drops new content here. Want some GeekTime swag? Check out the merchandise available in the GeekTime TV store, linked in the channel description below. Share GeekTime TV with friends, and as always, thank you for your support. We'll see you soon.